What up, nerds, and welcome to a triple shot of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for this evening. This is episode number 329, recorded on Sunday, July 25th, 2021. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Fear Street Trilogy. That's 1994, 1978, and 1666. All on Netflix currently. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
Howdy do. This is Randy G. Landy, the father. All right, I'm getting my 90s on today. I'm doing as much as I can to bring in that 90s goodness. Right now, I'm wearing my flannel. I got my Goldberg cap, technically late 90s, not 94, but whatever. I got my JVC record your own VHS tape here for some reason.
Beautiful.
Sure have it. What is this even? It just says Andy's tape, so this is pornography, baby.
It is porn. It is staticky porn, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely staticed out, not a cable channel I possess. Recorded.
No, don't watch that. That's Andy's tape. Dear God, don't watch that. Wow.
It's probably something way more innocent and embarrassing than porn.
Well,
honestly.
Thanks for bringing it to the table. We'll be watching that next.
Reviewing that next week.
Whatever it is. Last but not least, calling in from my immediate left, we got our boy, Soju. What's up, man?
What up, it's your boy, Soju Stains 1998, the year of my birth, boys. Can you believe I'll be 23 this year? Boggles the mind.
No one
you
can
really
believe it.
are a 90s baby.
That's a bold-faced lie.
You sure are.
I sure am getting old, huh,
Old
boys?
Zoomer Stains over here. That's some bullshit.
How's your TikTok doing, buddy?
Dude, I am straight to the top.
Ticking and talking.
That's the nomenclature of TikTok, as I understand it.
That's what these kids are saying.
That's
these
how the
days.
kids talk.
I heard they say zippity zappity.
Well, I mean, they're only human. They have
we
to.
say zippity zappity.
And it's taken the world by storm.
We
Straight to the top.
kids like to say.
Streets
We
ahead.
say hell ye and zippity zappity. Straight
Nope.
to the top.
Hell skeet
All
is
right.
what they say. Let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. We got our August poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this August. The theme for August, which was Randy's takeover month, is weirdo art house bullshit. And let's see if Randy can remember the three movies he chose.
Oh, my favorant new segment.
It's
so
great.
we got Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. We've got Kaidan.
Nice.
And weirdly, a different one I'm blanking on this week. What am I blanking? Oh, Barbarian Sound Studio. That's what it is.
Yeah, those would be the three movies.
I was like, of course, I made a point to memorize Kaidan, and that shoved out all space for
other.
Barbarian Sound Studio. I have no fucking RAM left. I am dying.
God damn. Stay with us, Randy.
Hey, Bob, how are those numbers looking so far? It's the last week to vote.
So it's an interesting development since the last time we recorded here. So we now have a dead heat between Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me, and Barbarian Sound Studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kaidan doesn't really have a chance in hell, but I don't know. We got a tie that needs breaking this week, so we'll see.
If any of our Kai dudes or Kai dongs want to come out in favor of one or the other and change their vote,
gonna have
please
to
do.
switch it.
I personally, I would be ecstatic to talk about Fire Walk with Me, but you know, after all the shit talk, or not shit talk, but all the dissuasion I did
The
last 2
warnings,
weeks, I kind of feel like I shot myself in the foot for that end. So it is what it is. But you know, if you feeling some Twin Peaksy, some Lynchian nightmares, please by all means give me something good to eat.
We haven't covered a lot of Lynch so far, so you know
That's
let's
true.
Up our
Very
street
little.
cred.
Yeah. We
They love David Lynch on the streets.
only covered the one Eraserhead, right? That was the only.
I think so.
only Lynch.
As far as I know, yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and goddamn, that was interesting to talk about. Somewhat difficult, but
Yeah.
interesting.
Difficult for you.
That is the Lynchian way.
God, yeah, he does tend to grind my gears.
I understand it completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lynch is a man for the youth, that's for sure.
Yeah. This 75-year-old man man is certainly the voice of your generation. Zoomers.
Zoomers for Lynch. Make sure you get your votes in before the end of July. And we'll see
that could take so many meanings.
Oh, god damn. Yeah. We'll see what movie we're talking about this August. In other Patreon news, we do have a brand new mini-cast we just dropped this week, actually.
Oh, shit. What it is.
If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a ton of Patreon-exclusive content. We've got a pretty decent back catalog of over 40 mini-casts on there, and we add to that every single month. Most recently, we dropped a review. This was Randy and Justin talking about the short film, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons from Ari Aster. Boys, I don't know, you want to talk about it for a second?
Yeah, first of all, that's a rare combo. Me and Randy getting together to talk business.
It's a rare situation in general. We had one in the works at once that just got completely butt fucked by our technical
that
details.
was completely my fault.
Which I won't spoil what that was, but maybe we'll get back to it sometime soon. It's, I think, of great interest.
I'll
okay,
spoil it.
I don't want to spoil it, but the Zoomers have no respect for spoilers.
Way to
obviously.
go. Zoomers for Lynch.
That was my fault. But yeah, we talked about the short. It's on YouTube. It's about 30 minutes long?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe even less than that.
Yeah. So if you like Ari Aster, Hereditary, and Midsummer, he's got some shorts on YouTube. This is kind of his most famous one. I haven't watched any of the other ones. I meant to, but I haven't yet. But we talked about that a good deal, and it's got a lot of meat on the bones to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Distressed.
This is one of the longest mini-casts. I think you guys pushed almost an hour for it, so it's not even that mini. Really.
There's a lot to dig into because it is extremely, extremely troubling shit that we have to talk through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
as is the Ari Aster milieu.
We're giving the people, some good content out there for the $10 level.
Yeah, and
you really are self-mining.
Yeah, no shit. And you can listen to all those bonus episodes on whatever podcatcher you prefer. You don't have to just listen to them on Patreon, which is super convenient.
Well, la-dee-da.
So yeah, check that out. That's all we got for Patreon. Juice, do you have any other thing of note?
Nothing in particular, just talking about that $10 level. Like, we have a lot of things already coming too.
Yeah.
We will be keeping that catalog full.
There's a lot of shit in the can.
Upcoming. Me and Bob just recorded a mini episode for Old.
Yeah.
So new movies.
Shyamalan's Old.
Shyamalan. Yep. So lots of stuff headed to Patreon for sure. YouTube is clean though.
Oh, M. Night Slam.
You know what we should do, Bob? We did a ranking video for the Conjuring universe.
Yeah.
Do we need to do the Shyamalan universe?
Dude, yeah, we should.
Is it a universe? I mean, I guess parts of it are, certainly. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe ranking the Shyamalan universe. That would be something.
Ruthlessly ranking is what we'll call this new segment.
Yeah, that would work. All right, yeah, I think that's all we got. I believe our houses are collectively clean.
This house is clean.
It's time to get into the main event. We're talking about the Fear Street Trilogy, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Man, I am just praying that you have a copy of any Fear Street book and you're just going to read the blurb off that.
I don't. I was actually going to try and go to the bookstore yesterday to pick one up, but I didn't have time. So I wanted to. So yeah, obviously these are all on Netflix and they're all pretty new, so I don't own any of them. They may never actually reach a physical medium, so they might just remain digital. So we're talking about all three movies, 1994, 1978, and 1666. I'll just read what's on IMDb for those movies real quick. There's just a couple sentences per movie. 1994 is as follows. A circle of teenage friends accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. Welcome to Shadyside. 1978 is as follows. Shadyside, 1978. School's out for summer, and the activities at Camp Nightwing are about to begin. But when another Shadysider is possessed with the urge to kill, the fun in the sun becomes a gruesome fight for survival. And then we got part 3, which is 1666. Oh, I don't have it pulled up. Give me just a second.
Oh.
Bob, no. Bob, no. No. Bob, no.
Yes, there we go. It says, the origins of Sarah Fier's curse are finally revealed as history comes full circle on a night that changes the lives of Shadysiders forever. All 3 of these movies were directed by Leigh Janiak. I believe is how you pronounce her last name. And it's starring a whole host of Netflix bangers. We've got Jillian Jacobs in here, Kiana Madeira, Ashley Zuckerman, Olivia Scott Welch, bunch of other people. New movies, obviously, is first time watch for all of us. But Gentlemangs, would you recommend people check out the Fear Street Trilogy? Randy, kick us off.
I think I would recommend, not like to the extent of being like this is required viewing by any means, but I think there's I think this is an enjoyable series overall. So without getting too deep into anything, I would say if you want just a popcorn horror flick, you could do a whole lot worse than this one.
All right,
or
Juice.
these 3, I guess, is actually more accurate.
These 3. Juice, what about you?
So the tough thing about it is we're talking about a trilogy, and it's a pretty big time commitment because it's 3, full-length films that we're talking about here. As a standalone, I think you could probably watch the first one if you didn't want to just plow through 3 movies. I think you could watch the first one. It does kind of have a bit of a mystery at the end, but I think alone in itself it could stand. I wouldn't necessarily say that about the other 2. I don't think you could just pop in to the second one without having seen the first one and really enjoy what's going on. Same thing.
If you're going to watch them, you need to watch them in sequence for sure.
Yeah, or if you just want to watch one, I think you could watch the first one and be okay. They're fine. I think it's a little difficult too because they each have a different kind of tone. So I think before when I was talking about what you've been watching, I said, the first one might be a decent kind of spooky season watch because it's got just a smidgen of little Halloween things going on there. It's got kind of a spooky vibe. But the second one would not fit that one. The second one's a summer camp theme, and the third one is kind of like a historical piece. So it's hard to recommend this trilogy as a whole. I don't know if the whole trilogy juice is worth the squeeze, but there's definitely some value here. It's just hard to kind of peg where these movies would be recommended, I would say watch one at a time, and if you like the first one, continue to the next one the next time you want to throw something on, and then so on. I don't think these are meant to be consumed in a marathon viewing situation. Yeah. So, I mean, kind of like a general loose recommend, but not like a strong recommend. Bob, would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you. They seem to lose steam as they go for me personally, so it's hard to recommend 6 hours of viewing time here. And you do I think you kind of have to watch them all. It really is one story. It's delivered as a trilogy of films, but it feels more like a mini series almost. You could have turned this into 6 episodes if you really wanted to. So it's one cohesive story. So 6 hours is sort of asking a lot of your audience, and a lot of this is very referential. So I think most likely, someone who's going to get the most out of this is going to be a younger person, maybe someone who's a teenager. Even though it's rated R, it feels like that would be the case, I think. So yeah, it's a loose recommend. If you got some teenage kids, maybe sit down and watch it with them. They would probably enjoy it.
Stand by for hardcore sexual content, though.
Yeah, maybe not 13.
Nothing,
but
no
like-
nudity, but
like
some
17.
content.
Well, that's some stuff I want to get into too. Is like,
Yeah, I do. I do as
Who is
well.
this for?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to ask that question a few times.
It sounds like a sort of a loose recommendation from the three of us here at the Straight Chilling Crew. We're going to drop that spoiler warning since it's brand new trilogy, and we'll get into the rest of the movies. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right. We're going to do this.
Yep, let's do it. Bob, a plot synopsis. This is 3 films.
Yeah. I did summarize all 3 of them, and it took a long time, but it's a lot to read. So I'm going to try to, off the dome, give a very high level, synopsis of the 3 of these movies, just all together.
Let's do it.
So we start off in 1994, and there's a group of teenagers. There's a random murder at the mall. These teenagers end up being stalked by a killer with a skull mask on, and through a series of events, they sort of realize that their town is cursed. There's like a bit of folklore involved with it about this like witch from the 1600s that cursed their town. She ended up being hung, and she curses Shadyside. And then there's like an adjacent town called Sunnyvale, where everything is bright and wonderful, and everyone is very affluent, and nothing bad ever happens there. But over in Shadyside, there's just murders every generation. There's like
murder capital of the world.
Yeah, murder capital of the world. There's like terrible murders every generation that passes through the town, basically. So we follow some teenagers as they're trying to not get murdered. They find out that back in the 1978, there was a string of murders at a summer camp. Summer camp's called Nightwing, and there's one girl that was killed, but she was revived, and she's still alive to present day 1994. So they're like, okay, well maybe that's how we survived this. They deduce that the killer's coming after just one of their friends, so they say like, okay, we're gonna kill you and then revive you, and then we're gonna be done with the thing. It doesn't really work. A lot of the kids get murdered. One of the girls gets possessed. They find the one girl that survived the summer camp murders. They go talk to her, and then that sort of brings us to the second film, in which we have this very long flashback to 1978, where we see what happens, and there's another killer, another kid gets possessed. He ends up killing a bunch of kids at camp. We go into these tunnels, and we see there's like a list of names scribbled on a wall, and all those names are the names of the killers that have happened over the past several hundred years.
Right.
And we pretty much exit that film with our main character from 1994 finding the severed hand of the witch and returning it to the witch's body, her burial site, basically. And when she does that, she's launched back into 1666, and she is seeing a point of view from Sarah Fier, the witch, in present day 1666. That's how the third movie starts, and then we see how she is wrongfully accused of being a witch and making a deal with Satan, and it turns out that Mr. Good, what's his name? Good is actually the
Samuel
Good
was the first one, I think.
Yeah, OG.
That's Solomon.
Solomon.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. He's the one that actually makes a deal with Satan, and he starts this whole situation with Sarah Fier.
Frames Sarah, yeah.
Yeah, frames Sarah, and then she curses the town because she's wrongfully accused of being a witch. And that's how this whole thing starts. And then the whole thing ends with us back in 1994, and they like conjure up all these killers, and they trap them in this extravagant way in the mall, and they end up killing Nick Good, I think is the police officer's name. They finally kill him because his lineage is the cause of this whole thing, and they stop the curse, or so we think. Because mid-credit roll, somebody grabs the witch's book, so we're probably going to get more of these. That was kind of rough. But yeah, rough overall of the three movies.
Yeah, it's tough to cover that much ground because these movies do move at a pretty quick click. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of extra fat to them, and it's a lot of structure that they lay down throughout, I would say. Yeah. And then a lot of it doesn't necessarily factor into later installments because they are kind of like encapsulated individual stories on some level, but not to the point where the lore is inconsequential to any one of them except for the first one. Do you know what I mean? Like to Justin's point earlier, like you could watch the second one on its own, but you would be missing a huge chunk of the equation. And they do recap stuff, so it's not like you couldn't. To me, this feels almost like Rob said, it almost feels like a mini series that was trimmed down to a 3-movie situation instead of, it could have easily been 4 and even more than that if they wanted to. But they went with 3, and the third one is the weirdest of the bunch because not only is it in a time that nobody living remembers, so it doesn't have any nostalgic factor to it. It also is split into basically 2 movies. There's a whole hour of the movie that's not set in the 1600s. It's back in the 90s, and they preempt that by saying 1994 Part 2. And I really loved that they did that, but I also thought it was weird as fuck that they didn't just make it a whole separate thing because that 1600 story is pretty self-contained.
It is, and I think that's what kind of hurts this series overall. That I think that's one of the many problems that comes with a almost like identity crisis or inconsistent tone or direction of what these things are supposed to be and how they're supposed to be presented. Because it seems like they are sticking with a certain kind of theme or direction that makes sense for the first 2 movies. One thing that I hate, but at least they were it seemed like a conscious choice, was like, okay, we're in 1994. They play track after track after track of fucking 90s songs. Like, okay, we fucking get it. Sometimes it's literally like 3 to 4 songs fades out and into another one, and it's just too much. But at least it's like, this is a certain time period, and like you said, the nostalgia, and then it completely changes when it goes to the second film. So then at least it's like, okay, you're on this ride, but then going to 1666, all that shit kind of goes out the window. So it's like, how does this series work as a whole? It was almost the same thing as my recommendation. It's like, well, this first one's kind of got some spooky vibes, and then the second one's kind of got some summery vibes, and then the third one has no seasonal vibes. It's like a period piece. So it's like, it feels very jarring sometimes to think about this trilogy as a whole, but they almost force you to, because like you guys said, it pretty much is like a mini series where they put 2 episodes together and called it a film. I mean, so I don't know how it works as like films and as a trilogy and as an overall story. It's from my first kind of point of view, it's jarring. It's not, it doesn't flow very well.
It's almost like a horror sampler. Like, you get it's obviously like very, very much referencing like Scream in the 90s. And then you get like the summer camp slasher with Friday the 13th and whatnot in the second situation. And then the third one's very like, the Scarlet Letter or the Witch vibes. So you get like a little, it's a taster of everything. That's kind of why I mentioned, like, if you're maybe in your teens watching this, you might not have seen a lot of the stuff that this is referencing. So it would feel fresh and hopefully very entertaining as you're watching it for the first time,
And that's the thing, is like the third one is the clear outlier for a number of reasons. I mean, not only is it split into 2 time periods where the others are stuck to 1. It's a time that nobody really knows about exactly, except for in theory and in retrospect. Teenager or no, everybody just has like historical records. That's it. Like, there's not even photographs from that time period usually. So I mean, it's harder to keep the same sort of like breakneck American Horror Story-esque pace that they have in the first 2. They try to, but one of the weird things to me, like the kind of like I can get down on that because I like the story wise, it makes a lot of sense, and it I think pays off pretty well for the overall story to go to that time period and tell that story and like set the like help you understand the groundwork of what caused all this that we've already seen and sort of retroactively add weight to things that have happened that you've seen already. I love that, but it's because it doesn't have any popular music that people are familiar with to go off of or any of that stuff. It's a little bit tough to swallow. And also it's like, I don't know, like the thing that really stuck in my craw for a while was the casting of the same actors from the first movie and the second movie.
We all said
I was like,
that.
this is like Back to the Future 3 sort of misstep. Like, you don't need to see Marty McFly's grandfather played by I'm blanking out here. Michael J. Fox, and then Leah Thompson as his ancestor as well. That's incestuous, first of all, and weird. But also like that's the thing that's going on here, where it's like they're so desperate. It seems like they're so desperate to like bring those faces back, familiar faces, in order to sort of like make up for its lack of familiar nostalgia to build off of. They build it out of nostalgia for characters we've already been introduced to, if you even have that. Hopefully you do.
It used to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say it confused me too, because like
for her it makes kind of sense. If it was just the main girl, I could kind of see it.
And I didn't realize, because like, so yeah, our main character goes back in time and she's experiencing Sarah Fier's life, and like from a point of view, but we see her face, not Sarah Fier's face, and we also see all these other characters from the other movies. And I was wondering, like, did they also go back in time? Are they seeing the same things that she's seeing through other characters? But that's not the case.
And it's exact parallels of their relationships too. Like
they're
she
just
has
acting
a lesbian relationship that they're keeping in secret, that's puritanically looked down upon by the townsfolk. The only difference is that they haven't had the major schism between Sunnydale and Shadybrook yet, which is the story that they are telling. So that makes perfect sense. But it just doesn't have, like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to have like the dude who jerked off to himself in the first movie in this one as just a guy. Like, I mean, it just feels a little too, as much as I just said it's like American Horror Story in its pace, I don't need it to be like it in its casting decisions. It kind of takes away from that section of this third movie by making it confusing and just, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, it was confusing.
It feels like the world building sucks for it.
From like a viewer standpoint, like, wait a second, kind of like Bob was saying, like, how are people experiencing this? I also think
and they're ancestors of these people too. They have the same last name and shit.
That's the thing. It made it confusing in a lore sense, because like you just said, Randy, the parallels of the actual relationships. So then I was like, okay, are we stuck in some kind of like weird time loop? Or are we, you know, because they were so similar and they use the same actors and they're in the same location, it made the just overall, you know, mystery and like lore and everything like that confusing to me. I thought it was a very poor choice.
I thought it was a poor choice, but the thing is, like, if I understand, like, if they kept the same girl, like I forget her for the name, Kiana Madeira, Dina, the actress who played Dina, if she had been, you know, that would make a logical sense for her to be physically in place of this other person, the Sarah Fiers that we know or that we don't know, because of the situation she's going through in the lore. But the other characters it doesn't make sense. I'm even okay with them going as far as to let them like she has a lesbian relationship, and that's the crux of the whole situation for her in the past, because that brings everything back around. Thematically, I think that works really well, and it's all about, you know, what puritanical society says versus oddballs versus what, you know, being unusual in the eyes of you know, the major populace versus, you know, being accepting yourself and loving yourself and all that sort of shit. Like, that stuff is all great, and it all plays into the whole story is about that. Every movie is about that.
I would agree. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but like the casting decision, it's almost like this movie has great, I think, pretty decent ideas for the most part. They're not like groundbreaking ideas, but they're decent enough for a, you know, a teenage centric sort of film. Totally fine. They just really, really have to hammer every nail on its head so goddamn much. Yeah. To the point where they're like, Detective Nick Good is evil. And they use the line "good is evil" like 3 times. And it's so cringeworthy, eye roll worthy. And it's like, yeah, we got that. You didn't have to say that. Yeah. We understand the connection between the word and name good and this character being not good. Like, It's just like shit like that. It's like it's punctuated by really dumb over explanations and things like that.
I want to go back to something you said, Randy, about the relationship and like how it makes sense from like the society of the 1600s and things like that. But where I thought they missed the mark with it though is, okay, it made it confusing because it's tied to the relationship that exists in the 90s and they're using the same actresses and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But also, too, where I thought it was strong and where it was going, but then where it kind of lost some of that punch and sense in a way, is that Solomon, like the guy who ends up being behind it all, it's like that's not the reason she was framed, like because she was a lesbian or because she was a witch. It literally, like, that was her friend, Solomon was. And so
no,
like
she was gonna get hung either way.
Well, because of the other town folk, but it wasn't a motivation for like the overall curse and situation. It was just like a lucky happenstance for that guy.
No, I think he engineered that, and all, like, he's the curse.
No,
like Solomon caused the curse. Killing people is what he is doing. Like that's him doing
Solomon
things.
caused the curse and the deal with the devil. And so here's what I'm saying.
Sarah doesn't curse anybody.
No, I know. Hang on. So
okay, all right. I thought that's what you said. I'm sorry.
No. So the first two films, we have this kind of like forbidden love situation, and then we also have this idea that of Sarah Fier, like she's the one who's cursing everybody. Okay. So then we go back into the 1600s. And you have this relationship again, this forbidden love, and like, oh, are we inviting the devil in and stuff like that? You still know somebody else is causing it. Okay, so the townspeople who don't know what's going on with the devil, who find out about the relationship, yes, they use that as a scapegoat, but it actually has nothing to do with the guy who is calling the devil. Like as the story plays out, it literally just becomes a lucky coincidence that he catches Sarah Fier, because at first he tries to hide her. Like he's like, no, Sarah, like understand because
he does care about her.
He actually doesn't even want her to find out what he's doing, and it's just because she stumbles upon it. He's even defending them at first. So that was a weird disconnect for me.
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree. I think that like
I didn't think he engineered like them to take the fall for it.
No, I don't know. I don't think like I think that he was perfectly willing to allow that to happen. But the thing is, like the crux of that particular story is not, her being persecuted on its own. It's her and him both being sort of like looked down upon, being outcasts of society in some way or another, and her making the wise and moral decision not to do horrible things in order to get her what she wants. He makes the opposite decision, and because of that, her goodness is tamped down, and all goodness that comes out of Sunnyvale, or would come out of Sunnyvale, or I'm sorry, Shady Brook, is tamped down for all of time. It seems, and it's like it's an allegory for the powerful keeping power by keeping the other like otherized. He uses her otherization to escalate himself out of that, and then keeps his thumb on that.
But I don't think that was his
in order to keep himself lifted.
But I think that's
maybe not.
His original intention, because they're originally outed from the guy who like gets way too handsy with her girlfriend, and she rejects him sexually. That's the person who initially puts their name forward,
right?
And he has nothing to do with the devil. So you almost have this schism of like ideology where it's like, okay, so what you're saying would have made more sense had the guy who was rejected by the girlfriend, had he made the deal with the devil, because he's not getting what he wants.
No.
He's being rejected by this lesbian girl. He wants her. He makes a deal with the devil to get power and to get things. But it's this whole other guy. And so those ideology, like it's like two separate things. That guy just gets lucky that the town is focusing on these lesbian girls,
yes,
while he's just like over here. But it's not his intention to separate them, like I don't know hide why his own power or whatever.
No, like he's not setting out to hurt her initially. He's setting out to make a way for himself, but he does so by hurting people. He makes the decision to do that. That makes him an intentional evil, whereas the town people have their own brand of evil. They can be discreetly different without, you have both working against these people because they're both outcasts in some way or another, but only she is hunted as a witch because the townspeople look at her that way, and they find reason to. This guy finds reason because she's rejected by her and gets a pants tent in front of a bunch of people, and like shit like that. I don't understand. Like, I guess I kind of see what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like this. They don't have to be a part of a grand Machiavellian scheme from start to finish in order for it to be perfectly evil and be still the moral quandary that she makes the wise decision and he does not, and does in doing so keeps, this is, I don't know.
He's killing people regardless. Like he's making the choice to
he's
sacrifice
an evil person.
Basically the whole town.
Yeah, I guess that's my thing. He's not sacrificing
He doesn't have to be the only evil in order to be
everybody. But I know, but that's not what I'm saying though. What I'm saying is the ideology is schismed because you have the Puritan society, which it's critiquing, and it's like, even if there wasn't a devil man amongst us, they would criticize us and hang us. Like, nothing to do with the devil. And then
So the question is, how do you get out of this cycle of being the other? And his answer is by killing people, and makes him just as bad as them, if not worse.
Yeah, I know, but I guess his whole thing is like, he's not just persecuting the other, he's literally throwing up this whole town to sacrifice all of them, the other and the the normies.
He's an
whatever.
Extreme version of their evil. Like he instead of like he's like, it's like I don't know, it's like if somebody, like if you're poor as dirt, if you grew up white trash like us, say, and you fucking one of your friends wins the lotto and then never speaks to you again, and then actively, tries to keep you from succeeding at business and so, like, that's fucking evil. Like, you got out of the trenches, and rather than, hand down a ladder or a hand to help, you actively push people in just to keep yourself in that cream. But like, that makes you a terrible person.
But now, see, he does offer that ladder to her. He's like, hey, fuck these people.
Yeah, in exchange for her killing people, though. Like, he wants her to murder people with him, and that's the choice.
But see, that's why I think that it hurts it, because your analogy doesn't work, because he does offer that to her. Like you just said, like, it makes more sense.
No, he offers her the chance to kill people.
I know, but it makes more sense. Like, your metaphor is powerful because it's the person who you
what are you willing to
do
to get out of the trenches?
No. It's the person that you share the same, like, we're both others, okay? And then the other rejects the other to fit in with the everything. That's not what this movie is proposing.
No, that's not what I'm saying either. He's doing that as a scapegoat in order to then, like, the very idea that he's killing people at all is,
like, your analogy does not match with this film. What you just said about the white trash and the person that doesn't throw you down the ladder, that is not the ideology, and that is not what happens in this film. That's what I'm proposing. So while you're, like, defending it with
okay, sure. Okay, so it's a bad analogy. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. The analogy is poor. That's fine. But I think that it makes perfect sense for him to, like, I think that it's perfectly fine as a story situation for, like, him to be, like, he is persecuting her at the end, but he's doing so out of self-interest and greed. And that's the story, is how much are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice people you care about, people you love, people, like he says he loves her. What are you willing to sacrifice in order to become the cream of the crop? And she makes the decision, I won't sacrifice. I will only sacrifice myself in service to my friends. He's sacrificing his friends in service to himself.
And see,
that's
I
the
agree
schism.
with that. And that's like, if that was our main focus throughout all three of these films, I would say, like, okay, that's a strong thing to do. But where I'm saying the schism is, it's because you have this main villain and the thing, but then there's also this societal evil.
Yeah,
but
they're two. That's part of society.
No, I know, but it's two different. What I'm saying is there are two different focuses. You have, like, it's like two completely different lessons. Like, there's this guy who is willing to do anything to get ahead, even though he, like you said, he says he loves people. So that is one, like, lesson that you get from the movie or whatever. It's like, this is what good looks like, where you sacrifice yourself for your friends. And this is what evil looks like, where you literally throw everybody under the bus to get ahead. And then there's this whole other thing about
there's two
society.
Evils.
Yeah, about,
I don't know why that's a problem.
It's not necessarily a problem. I just said there's a schism, and
I don't think it's a schism. I think they work in tandem. I think that's the point. He couldn't get away with doing that if they weren't so ready to believe she's a witch. He's using these people's bigotry as a cudgel in which to get what he wants. He's the smart asshole in the room willing to sacrifice using his conniving and brains. And she's the one who's conniving and has brains and is not willing to do that. So she suffers for it. And he makes sure that anybody, like he's willing to sacrifice literally anybody for that. They're different kinds of evil. One is more Machiavellian and one is more like from the hip, being a dickhead and bigot, but they still play together. They're still like, they work as a fabric together of society. They're part of the same society.
It doesn't work as strongly to me. I feel like one should
I don't know.
be the
I think
focus
so.
and one shouldn't be. That's just my
it's honestly a pretty good metaphor for reality, because people in like the 1% or whatever, they don't like just stay there by accident. They game the system to do that. They game people's opinions, and that is what he's doing. Like, he uses people's worst instincts as a way to keep the threats at bay, the threats to what they have at bay. I think that that's perfectly like in tune with what happens in reality.
Yeah, I guess it is. But then the problem with like the metaphor is there's two different metaphors is what I'm saying.
I don't know that this trilogy is really like trying to drive home a metaphor. Like, if it is, it's a little bit loosey-goosey, and I think we're getting way too the fuck in the weeds with it, to be honest.
I don't know. I don't
think so, man. I think it's
I actually disagree with that.
It's an engaging part.
Because I said this before, where this movie, the first one, and now that I've seen all three, I can say that I agree with my initial reaction, is it very much reminded me of the Netflix series, or the Netflix movie, The Bronx, Vampires versus the Bronx.
Yeah, I haven't seen
and that movie was very much focused on the same kind of deal, like a societal situation where the vampires, literally the bloodsuckers, were, feeding on the society that, the neighborhood, where it was about gentrification. It was about people coming in, taking your homes, taking your neighborhoods, and being cold, and like it very much had a comment on society. I think this one, like, I really do. I think it's trying to do that, but I think that's why I was saying once it was revealed to me that it was Solomon, like he's the one, but I saw where that relationship came out of. While I was like, well, he's not. It wasn't his intention to sacrifice the others to society for him to be ahead of society. It was just kind of a nice coincidence that another dude got rejected and was willing to like use his humiliation as a way to like get back at these girls, and so that guy was just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just take that opportunity. It's obviously like a systemic thing. Like, marginalized people are continuously marginalized over 300 some odd years, because we cover that a long.
They're marginalized by paupers and bankers alike. So,
but like
that's the situation.
Like, that's the point. It's not like this crazy deep point.
I don't think it's the entire point by any means, but I do think, I think it's a story that has facets, and I think that's a very important one of them, because I think the whole story itself is about being the outcast. Like, I think that's sort of like the central thing, the thread between every character, and I think that gets the most focus. And I think that the last movie is the one that's about the escalation of that. It's like, it's like this because people make it this way in order to keep themselves in an elevated status in society.
Yeah.
And so I think that works really well. And I think that says, I think that's pretty valuable thing to set your movie around.
Now, one
even
thing
if that's
I would
not
say
that's there.
They did good about that is they kept that consistent throughout the films in different kind of ways. So it was definitely like heavy-handed in the way that it did it.
Yes,
but at least in our first movie, we see the two different football teams and the two different bands and stuff like that. We see the division, and then it carries into the second one where they have that, color day, and it's, Shadyside versus the other one. So they do a good job of keeping that consistent, but also varied through all three films where we see the initial split. But oh shit, where was I going with that?
Welcome to my life.
I know, shit. God damn it, I had a really good point for where that was going.
Oh, I'll bet you did, buddy. We'll take your word for it.
So
Good job, Juice.
But I did like that where they kept it like consistent, even though it was very. But one thing that I got a little confused about at the end is they were like, okay, it's tied to this family. Okay, so they're like all the goods, they live on Sunnyside or whatever, or like they're the ones benefiting. But the problem with that idea is in the first movie, the whole kind of conflict is that Dina, is that her name? Her girlfriend has moved away. Sam to Sunnyside, but it's like if the devil is only blessing this one family to, you know, to give them the benefits, then how can somebody just move over there?
Well, they can't, because he was going, like, she was the next in line to be possessed. So like she was the next target. Like that's the whole thing. Like in the second movie, they hammer it home really hard that like you don't escape from Shady Brook. Bad things will happen to you.
Is that Shadyside.
What it was? That's not wrong?
Shadyside, not Shady Brook.
Oh man. Okay.
Shadyside.
I think those are directly from the Fear Street books, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. I've never read them, but that seems about right.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had read any Fear Street. I have not.
No, I guess we're coming from a place of ignorance on that.
Yeah, it's a Goosebumps kid. They wrote over 100 of those fucking books. So I mean,
Becky did read those, by the way.
Fear Street, probably.
Fear Street had a lot.
Yeah, Fear Street had a shitload. I'm sure Goosebumps has just as many.
I think
Goosebumps has like 300. Dude.
Yeah,
it's nuts. Yeah. No, but like Becky did read Fear Street, and her read on it, she's like, it's been a long time since I read them, so she was like grain of salt with it.
Yeah.
But she was saying that it's like definitely more gruesome. There's kids like getting hung. There's like on like in a stage, and like she remembered like bits and pieces of like pretty gruesome things that would play for teenagers but not for children, obviously. And that was the delineation between those two books, obviously. So like I think that like after hearing that, like my first read, if you listen to me on my What You've Been Watching, where I first watched this, was like, yeah, it's a little bit more gruesome than I would expect from what's essentially a kid series, but it's a teen series, and it's not actually, from what I understand, that inconsistent with the gruesomeness in the books. And that's another thing I want to bring up is I think this as a adaptation of a teen focused book series, I think for the most part it's good, but I think it really tries hard. This goes back to your question of who's this for. They try so hard to court the upperclassmen, the old elders who read them at that era, that they kind of lose the thread on that a little bit. I think this is a terrific teenage series, but then they'll do things like have like pretty graphic, if not pornographic, and they're not pornographic, but pretty graphic like sex scenes and some like, you know, shit that you wouldn't necessarily want your 13-year-old to see, like we said earlier.
Yeah, they're
these were books for 13-year-olds. They just aren't movies for 13-year-olds, really.
They're like trying to please two different masters in a way. The people that grew up reading these things, but also like trying to bring in a new audience of younger people who have access to these movies because they're just streaming on Netflix. So why not?
I think it says,
throw it on.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's like the metaphors, like the story being told speaks more to the current generation, but I think that the aesthetics are pushed so hard into the direction of nostalgia, especially the first one, that it kind of undoes that to a certain extent. And I did also complain about the amount of like 90s jams in the first one, but after a while, I actually kind of think I like that. It's a lot. It is a lot, and I could understand you not liking it. I certainly didn't. I certainly had feelings about it. But when they kicked in the fucking Offspring in the third part, I definitely marked out hard on that shit.
I love the Offspring just as much as the next motherfucker, but like so whenever they do like the 1994 part 2, I was actually pretty stoked because the low
I
point,
loved that.
The low point for the three movies for me was the entire 1666 joint. It just drove me nuts the way they like used the same actors. It like the choices made blew my mind, and I really could not look past them. But when they brought back 1994, I was like, sweet, okay, that was my favorite segment anyways, so we're gonna get another hour of it, which was a little long, I think. But then they like concoct. It's just like it's a 90s greatest hits. They're like, we're gonna get super soakers and we're gonna fill them with black light paint and also some blood, and then we're gonna like squirt it all over the mall, and it's gonna be neon and cool, and then we're gonna do a fucking Offspring needle drop, and it's just like, okay, I like this stuff, but pump the fucking brakes a little bit.
Dude, I
It's
felt
just
the opposite.
too much.
I loved it. I was fucking in for that shit because I feel like I really was like, in every single movie except for the third one, because I already kind of knew them, kind of knew the characters already. But every time I was introduced to a new, like, sort of like main teen character, I would start out being like, who is this? What is going on here? This is ridiculous saving. And then I eventually grew to really like them. I think that the characters are pretty likable at the end of the day. So by the time they came back to those kids and like were like in it, have an hour of them like really like firing on all cylinders, making plans, doing like big shit, and then like leaning into the 90s shit some more. Like at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I know what this 90s is like. I know what they're going to do here, and they're going to lean into the nostalgia. But they did so in a way that actually like it fit pretty well with the lore. I think like I don't know, the neon stuff or whatever. I think that's an aesthetical fan service thing that I can get on board with. At that point, I kind of saw this as like kayfabe. Like this is a pro wrestling situation where I was like, fuck yeah, they're gonna shoot those fucking guys and they're gonna attack each other, and it's gonna be a fucking like serial killer onslaught. It's gonna be Smash Brothers for serial killers, and I love that.
I love that idea, but they didn't really show the big brawl. They kind of cut away from it. I wanted to see more.
How long do you want those movies to be? Really, like they showed.
We're in it for 6 hours. Give me another 5 minutes.
I think a softer hand is needed. Like I don't mind the idea of like you're in a specific year, you play the songs from that year, but especially with that first film, I didn't feel like any music that was incorporated was even fitting in with what was happening in the scene or adding anything that was happening in the scene. Now, the Offspring one specifically was setting off like a montage of setting up the mall. So I'll give them that one. But that was in the third movie. In the first movie, there was a scene like within the first 15 minutes of the song. I would say they played close to like 8 to 10 different clips of songs. One time they play it like some kids like riding a bus or something, they were walking. It's literally like one song fade into the next song, fade into the next, with no break, no dialogue or anything. Songs that aren't connected in theme or in artist or in anything like that. It literally is just fade into one, fade in, and it's like, use a song like The Offspring to kick off a scene, use it to set up some kind of situation. At least have a kid wearing earbuds and that's what they're listening to. It literally is just like, here are some songs from this time period, and we're just going to shove them down your throat.
I mean, they don't do that consistently, I'll give you that, but they definitely do some of what you described. It's just maybe the amount of which they're trying to pull off is troubling. And, again, I can't really fault anybody for feeling that way. Yeah. Because, it is a lot. But to me, it's like, if I would be willing to go back and rewatch these films, not back to back or anything, but to me, these are really fucking good popcorn horror films that you can, like, especially now that I know the whole story and I can kind of jump into one of them. I probably won't jump into the third one. For like Rob, I kind of feel like the 1600s piece is just too baffling in its casting and the dynamics of people that I kind of like. As much as it adds to the lore, it kind of detracts from my enjoyment, which is kind of a weird thing to have happen because the whole show is like, it's very bombastic, you know what I mean? So like, I'm there for like the neon shit, but maybe the 1600 shits is a little bit demure for what I'm after at that point.
I was making a joke. I kind of wish they did this, honestly. So, like I said, with the first two films, they kept it consistent. Like, okay, now here's songs from this era, we're going to do it. And I was like, man, for the 1666, I hope they at least like wink at the camera and do like take a Britney Spears and do like a Hit Thine Baby One More Time or something. I was like, man, they need
Hit Thine Baby. It's not Moulin Rouge.
They could have hired Weird Al to do it. Hit Thine Baby One More
Goody
Time.
Just like some like in the background, some crazy, folk versions of these like hit songs. I thought that shit would be pretty funny.
Tonight,
they didn't
party like it's 1666.
Even if they kind of did, like, as long as they don't sing the words and like, because that's a little much.
Like the melodies.
But like, I get what you're saying. Yeah, if they played, if they did like a slow fucking harpsichord version of Smells Like Teen Spirit,
especially because they had that party in the woods, and I was kind of waiting for it, honestly, like what you just said, like a harpsichord version of Smells Like Teen Spirit. I was like, here it is, this is what we're gonna get, and I was like, oh.
How do you guys feel, because we spoke about a good bit about 1666 and 1994. I want to touch a little bit more on 1978 before we try and rate all these movies. Like, how did you feel like about the aesthetics of 1978 and the story?
So I think I differ from you guys, or well, I don't know, at least Bob. I like the second one the most.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I did. So I was saying about I was saying about the first one. It's hard to talk about. You gotta like in reference to these other films. So the first one, I was not about it because of like how ham-fisted it seemed in the beginning. But I agree with Randy. The characters in the first one, I like the situation they set up. It really pulled me back in, and that's what I was saying when I initially did What You've Been Watching. Now, once I was prepared for that, going into the second one, and maybe it's because, I'm more familiar with the 90s, and so it felt more like cringe
Pandering.
little bit to me. Pandering. But the second one, I don't know. I liked getting out of the mall. I liked the setting more of the cabin. Everything felt a little more natural, I guess, not of like, we're in a Spencer's, it's like, they're in a cabin, they're out in the woods. These places make sense for you to be, for the story to be told. And
they're not all talking about the Centennial or some shit. Like,
And I just liked that girl does a really great job who's in Stranger Things. I like the dynamic with her sister. Like
I did too.
Yeah. I don't know. I just liked that overall story and feeling more, even though I did grow to love the characters in the first one and thought they did a good job from the very beginning. I had to get there in 1994, but from the very beginning, I liked the dynamic of all the characters of 1978, how they interacted. I liked the setting better. It didn't feel as much as like pandering to me because we weren't in this mall, we weren't in this bookstore, we weren't in Spencer's and things like that. And it just felt like a more natural flow to me, and I just like I like that one more.
I can't blame. I honestly don't know if I like the first or second one better, but I definitely like them both better than the third one, and it's purely because of 1600's part, because the last hour of the third one is fucking great to me. But that said, like, the second one I think was pretty fucking good. I thought that it felt very, like Justin, I guess I think this is echoing what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly. It just felt like pretty organic in terms of, the relationships. It felt like they nailed the homage to that time period of summer camp films. Like I felt kind of similarly to like watching Wet Hot American Summer or watching Sleepaway Camp. It felt kind of like not that authentic, but it felt like it was certainly winking and nodding its head at those things, because these movies are nothing if not heavy-handed. But I did enjoy it, and I think that the characters are what sell that, just like the first one. Like the characters are really enjoyable in this. Again, I started out hating like what was Claire, or the dead Berman sister, the one who dies, the older one, the uptight one. Cindy? Her and her friend, Cindy, like her dynamic with Cindy and her friend Sheila, I want to say. I thought that was like, first I was like, God damn, this person sucks. Like this person, like, just do your job, stop being an asshole, and you find out there's things going on, and I don't know, like. By the end of things where they come together or whatever, it is very gratifying to me. I was like, this is great. Like, I didn't know they were old. Like, you find out more about it, and it becomes a pretty compelling arc, I would say. And the same with her sister. And the thing is, they're all pretty much the same arc, which is trying to find a way through the adversity that is being cursed, whether or not they acknowledge that it's a curse.
Yeah.
And, having those different methods bump up against each other in ways that make things even fucking harder, until finally you kind of come to a realization that, we're not just being picked on, we're being targeted by something cosmic. And then it becomes like a come together moment. That's just movies 101. It's very compelling shit.
It was. And actually, the thing you were saying about earlier, Randy, I actually agree. And it was what I think gives this movie its heart, where it doesn't just feel completely plastic, where it doesn't feel just like this tribute to these subgenres and these films and these eras of the other. And I felt it much more in the second one, because even like the little comments and like the discussions between the sisters, like the one where she's working really hard to have this certain presentation of herself, and her sister calls her out, like, you saved all summer just so you could buy this polo shirt, so you fit in with these other people. I felt like there was more of a struggle there, more of like a real sense of like, that's what somebody would do. Like, that felt real. Like, and that touched, kind of a nerve almost. Like, you have this one girl on one side where she's happy to be herself, and in this situation, even though they are cursed, she definitely wants to break the curse. But you have all these other people, and you understand their position. Like, of course you want to, like, you don't want to abandon people, but you want to try to, like, better yourself. But how that can be misconstrued of losing touch with who you are and losing touch with the people around you. Like, or
people resenting you for even trying to do something that they see as impossible. Yes.
Better yourself.
That's a central theme of, like, the fucking Wire. So I think that's fucking great.
I do too. And that's why I like the second one the most, because the third one I thought schismed that and even confused me. And I was like, well, maybe that's not kind of the core message but I felt like the second one embodied that theme the most from beginning to end, and I felt like it represented it in the truest nature of the three.
I think that's fair to say. And I also really liked that. I thought that was really smart. And the third one I think suffers, I don't want to go back to this too long, but like the third one suffers from having that split. There really should have been a fourth film, in my opinion. Or
there will be at least a fourth, if not more.
Do you think so?
Yeah, they're going to do more. Yeah.
Well, if they do, I don't know how I'll feel about that. I mean, it might be more of the same. It might be worse. It might be better. I don't know. But like, I like to consider this sort of like its own contained thing. I think it's really interesting the way they released it, the way they conceived of it. But I just wish they had given them, like, I'm guessing it's a budgetary issue, enough money to split that 1994 part 2 into its own thing and given it more leeway for itself. Because the 1600s thing, it's important lore, like I said, and I wish they had made other choices there. But at least if I could discreetly separate that from 1994 part 2, I would be much happier with 1994 part 2 as its own contained thing, I feel like. So yeah, I think that, like, the to your point, Justin, like, if the idea of being otherized and trying to climb your way out of Shady Brook or Shady, whatever it is, if that's the central idea of the second one, the first one is like just being the other and what it's like to be like just shat on for no reason.
Yeah,
we're landing the plane, gentlemangs. It's
okay.
time.
The first one is that. The second one is what you described. I think that the 1600s thing is about, there's larger systems at play. There's people who weaponize these bigotries against you, and that's why it continues to be this way.
Yeah, I can
and then
get behind that.
The fourth one is the resolution of all three of those things.
Yeah, I see that point. Yeah, that is a good point. And I think, I didn't see the distinction in the first one, but I think you're right. If each one had its own kind of theme more clearly mapped out, and they were saying each one of these like represents like where, like, the route, like, okay, you start here, you go here, you go here. I think I was more hung up on that second theme, and I kind of wanted it carried out through the third. But if it was more, I don't think it was clear to me that if that's the case, that I see your point. I think
that would have worked really well.
I think that's where I stumbled a little bit.
Tight.
Maybe.
Let's rate this out of 5. I think.
Shut up.
The best way. I think the best way to rate this is like as a trilogy. I would say, not like a film at a time.
You think so?
I think so. Okay. Yeah. I mean, unless you guys want to do it differently. But
no, it's like,
so
in the
hard.
interest of time, like, we can.
Yeah,
I can give a rating of all three quickly, and then as a trilogy, like, I could do that.
I think that's the way to do it, because it is a self-contained, like, rating part 2 on its own merit and part 3 on its own merit. It's like bizarre because they're bookended by 1994. Like, it's one cohesive story, really.
It really is. Let's rank it rate it as a trilogy, and then rank our favorites. How about that?
Yeah, that works. That totally works. All right, Randy, out of 5, what do you give the Fear Street trilogy?
Wow, I'm going first. Look at
me.
Whoa.
Lots
of faith. So, I would rank these, like I said, I have a hard time with 1 and 2. I think Justin made a really good point, and I think that the characters overall, it was easier for me to step into the 1970s version. I think maybe it's because I didn't feel as pandered to on some level, even though there was definitely an element of that still. I think that maybe that one's my top spot too, but it's a game of inches at that point, because those first two really
it
are
always
great to me.
is.
And that third, okay, sure, Bob. Thank you for your inclusion of implying you have a long wiener. And then the third one, like I said, it just suffers from a few. Like, I think it just needed to be its own thing, and it was forced to cram a lot more in than the other two. is kind of the situation that I feel about that. So that's the reason it suffers. Overall, I think these are really fun popcorn movies, especially like the first one. And if you've seen them all, you could easily jump into any one of them and probably have a decent enough time. Certainly the first two, maybe less so the third. I think that the themes are really strong. Talking about them today kind of gave me an even brighter respect for it. Having just seen the second two today, I guess that helped me solidify some feelings about it. I thought that the acting and the characters, for the most part, were really good. Like the characters were eminently likable, pretty much, unless they were intended to be disliked, in which case they were the worst pieces of shit on the planet. So it was fairly predictable. I called Nick Good being bad in the first fucking 10 minutes because he's got too much of a good guy face and his name is Good and this movie is not subtle. Fucking the witch's name is Sarah Fier in the movie Fear
She's got
Street.
her own street, you know?
Good and Fear. Oh, interesting. Like, I don't know. It's just it's heavy-handed, but it's heavy-handed to the point of being like bombastic and kind of fun. And, because the characters kind of earn it for me, the rest of it kind of comes along with that. And so I would give this as a series, as a trilogy, I'd give it, I think, a 3.75. I feel really good about it. I'm certainly going to watch at least the first two again. Maybe the first one in October and maybe the second one next summer. And maybe the third one if I ever just feel like closing the loop. Or seeing that last hour of part one. I don't know that I would see part 1666 again if it was on its own, though, in its current state. Overall, I think a 3.75 seems about fair with all of its flaws and all of its, subtleties kind of brought in, or less than subtleties.
Tight. I'm going to slide in here real quick.
Whoa, Bob, you're just throwing this all out of
Hey, age before beauty, okay?
All right, Bob.
You Zoomers are in such a hurry.
Out of 5, what you going to give the trilogy?
I think I might be on the low end between the three of us here. I thought 1994 was like pretty solid, like came out swinging. I really enjoyed the way it opened up, like in the mall. And the characters, like as you get to know like Dina and her girlfriend and also her younger brother, like they're pretty likable characters, and I enjoyed like going on the ride with them as they're uncovering shit. I felt like each one got a little worse as they went though. Like 1978 was a bit of a step down for me. I think aesthetically it just like really bothered me. It
That's crazy to me. I mean, you like Friday the 13th pretty good.
I do.
You like that aesthetic, right?
I do.
Generally.
But these like Netflix movies all have a very similar sort of sheen. Like it's like I'm sure they have like a production crew that they pull from regularly, and I'm sure they worked on all three of these movies. They all look very similar to me. And like I almost wish that they had 3 different crews working on these movies, so they all felt a little more like intact, a little more separated. They just like kind of bleed into one another too much for me, I think. And I don't know, it just didn't really feel like a summer camp slasher movie. Like even though that is what it is, they got some like Goonies stuff going on when they go down in the caves, which is fun. But it's just like you've got the slasher for, I don't know, at least the first 2/3 of the movie is just like a teenage kid who just like needs to shower really bad, and then eventually one of the characters throws a bag on his head that he can't see out of, but he still runs around with it, and it looks kind of neat. I don't know. I didn't really like dig the aesthetic. It did feel kind of pandering.
I feel so differently than that.
The characters were fine enough though, and then 1666 like was just why did they make the choices they did? Like reusing actors, just playing completely different people, while one of them actually did travel back in time, but the rest didn't. Like, that's just confusing and unnecessary. Just hire new people. Like, why?
That means we have to be reintroduced to a dozen characters too. Like, there's no reason to be reintroduced to half of them.
Yeah, it's just
they don't factor in.
it drove me nuts. And then the way it all came together in the end, it was just like too neat. Everybody like completely understood like the lore, and we're like, yeah, we'll do this super soaker thing, and we'll lock all these killers in the mall, and then that doesn't work because they get out, so we'll just have them kill each other. Like, it's just like too tidy. The writing is like far too convenient, and like everybody is completely on board with every step of this insane plan. It's insane. I could see where like if you were reading this as a teenager, like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. I think it ultimately is intended for teenagers to be watching it on Netflix, even though they're all rated R. I don't know. It just overall was fine to me. I think I'm going to give it like right down the middle, 2.5. I thought it was a generally decent experience over the course of all three movies.
Hey guys, should I put a hanging tree in my new mall?
Right? Like, how is that tree still alive? What?
Well, they built a mall around a hanging tree.
That
Also, really quick before I give my rating, can you guys explain to me the ending? Because as far as I saw, didn't she just touch the big blob and then everything disintegrated?
Yes. No, she touches it, and she touches it, and Nick touches it, and when you do that, you have like visions of all the past happening all at once. And what happens is, because that shocks Nick, and because she has a connection with Sarah Fier's kind of embodies her, and she stabs him in the eye through Dina as a conduit.
Makes the blob disappear.
Well, no, him dying does, because his lineage is now dead.
But it's not, because it shows his whole family lives in Sunnyside.
But I think that you have to pass it on directly to the next. I think there's like maybe this is me assuming things, but I think
okay. I was very.
I think you have to directly. There's only like in their family tree. There's only like one major trunk, and you have to be on that to be. I think to be the person that's making all this happen to the benefit of your whole tree.
Okay, I thought the ending was pretty weak and confusing.
Yeah, the whole like big,
a little confusing, but I thought it worked because it gave Sarah Fier her comeuppance. So.
The big heart beating blob thing is just like a little much. I don't know. Anyway, 2.5 for me. Juice, how you feel?
All right, I wanted to clarify that because I remember that I was very confused about it. Okay. These movies, this story. I agree with Bob about the sheen, and it's kind of like a Netflix sheen, like you said, and I've mentioned before, it's got this kind of like CW feel, where it feels kind of like plasticky. It makes things feel like not as high budget, or it makes things look cheaper than maybe even they actually are. Now, I actually think that the general look looked the best on the second one, because it's just kind of a general place, like cabins and outside and stuff like that. I think it's hard to make that look cheap because they're like run down, things like that. Where it didn't work for me was like the 90s, where it was trying to make things look like blacklight accessible. And I don't know, it just... maybe I want the 90s to look grimier or like dirtier. I don't know. So I thought the sheen...
How would you know? You weren't even there.
Yeah, it's true. I kind of like the sheen the best on the second one, but in general, I don't like that look. I love Bob's idea of having 3 different production crews on that, because really the third one, like especially the 1666, should have looked and felt like completely different. They all should have, and that would be a great idea to make these things better. So my experience was I started the 1994 and was not about it for a little bit. And like Randy said, the characters were so strong, they pulled me back and I was intrigued. So I think that helped going into the second one, because it ended on a positive note, and I liked generally everything going on in the second one. So then I got a high note on that one. Now I will say, going into the third one, I also did not like the 1666. I didn't like the way they used the same actors and actresses. And also, too, they just sacrificed 1666, which is unfortunate, because it itself only got an hour. It's got that sheen on it, which does not look good for the time period. They couldn't use any kind of songs or any kind of same, similar like tools that they used in the first two that connected them. And so really they just sacrificed the period of 1666, which is unfortunate, because there's potential for things like the witch, and because thematically, like a witch, it fits the most in that time period. Trying to make a Scream movie like 1994 and then throwing a witch in there is like, seems kind of strange. So they just sacrificed 1666. It was the worst. I didn't like the the second half like Randy did. It was a slog for me to get through that whole third movie. Like the whole showdown and them going back to the mall, I wasn't about it, honestly. And to a point where I remembered I had to finish the movie today. I had kept like stopping. I was like, oh my God, this movie's still going. And remembered I still had 20 minutes left and had to finish it right before I came over to Bob's. I thought the ending was very weak. Overall, this movie, like this trilogy, it goes back and forth, positives, negatives. So I'm going to be like Bob and give it a 2.5 as well. Wow. I just like, I'm not crazy about them. I think they offer some good things. I think they offer a lot of problems as well. So I think I'll just end it at a 2.5.
All right, that's going to put our aggregate at a 2.9 for the Fear Street Trilogy. Let's jump over to our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about these three films.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, folks, we got a lot of ground to cover. This is the segment in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate scores are for both the critics and users ratings on RottenTomatoes.com, the aggregate scores. And these are for all three. I think the way I want to do this is to have, I'm going to get all three from each of you at once, all right, and then do the audience all three.
Okay.
And I'll just try and do it that way. So
I'm going to write my scores down on my phone. So if you
that's
need
a good
me
call.
to remind you, I will.
I write them down too, but yeah, I might in case I get too busy talking and fuck
I'll just
it up.
change mine to the correct answer.
Oh, yeah.
As we
Cool.
go.
Cool. Okay, so Fear Street Part 1, there are 97 critics reviews for this film. Fear Street Part 2, there are 92, and Fear Street Part 3, there are 79 reviews. So a little bit less, but generally in the same range. Juice, we'll start with you. What do you think that the critics gave each one of these films?
I think this one's going to be high, or okay, for the first one, I think it's going to be high, too high for my liking, but I think the pandering of the 90s and everything, I think people are going to dig on that way more than I did. I'll give the first one a 75.
75. Okay. And then what about for Part 2?
Part 2, I think people will like that one less than I did. I think maybe that summer camp trope is maybe more played out for general critics. So I don't know. I'll give that one the 69 special.
Ooh, shit. Now I got to go over here.
69. Ooh.
There we go. To be fulfilled. All right. And then last but not least, or maybe least, Part 3. What do you think?
This one's hard because of the split. Maybe people are like, yeah, they ended it real great. I don't know. So I'll just go with my own kind of personal gut on this one. I'll give that one a 60.
60. Okay. All right, Bob, same question, same order. What do you think about the first one?
I'm going to go a little bit higher for the first one. I'll take a 78, please. 78, very little high. Just a little.
By 3.
Just
all right.
a little.
How about Part 2?
It's going to be lower. Give me a 60.
60, okay. And then Part 3?
55.
55. Okay. So, this is going to be interesting.
I have our scores, okay.
All right, so for Part 1, I'll start there. Part 1, we have Juice with 75, Rob with 78, and Rob is going to take this. It is 84% fresh, certified. Woo-hoo. Certified fresh.
That's pretty good.
You boner fart.
Well said.
What?
The new witticisms of Zoomers. All right, here's the critics' consensus for that. Fear Street Part 1, 1994, kicks off the trilogy in promising fashion, honoring the source material with plenty of retro slasher appeal. I think that's fair. They certainly have plenty of retro. All right, we're going into Part 2. Juice, you gave the comedy number of 69. Jouse, CJ. You gave the comedy number of 69. Bob, you gave the less comedic number of 60. And Juice, you're going to take this one. This is 89% certified fresh.
Lord. Wow.
Critics consensus, A smart and subversive twist on slasher horror, Fear Street Part 2 78 shows that summer camp has never been scarier thanks to stellar performances from Sadie Sink, Emily Rudd, and Ryan Simpkins.
I think it was scarier.
Subversive twist?
I don't know what they're talking
about that.
I mean, I agree that that's the best. Well, I don't know where they ranked the last one. So
1666.
Well, it's not like Rob said, it's not a straightforward slasher by any means.
Yeah.
So I think that's
okay.
I don't know. It's subverting that expectation by making it's not just Michael or not Michael. It's not just fucking.
That was. Did anybody else
Jason.
think that was super weird that the toilet just went into a
Yes,
cave?
there's a lot of
weird.
But the thing is, every time something like that would happen, I think to myself, that would be in a Fear Street novel. That seems.
Yeah.
Guano. Sorry, continue.
There's fucking the fucking tree. They built them all around the tree. Yeah, I'll give them anything they want at this point.
And there's still a hand.
Anything you want.
There's still a hand in there. They didn't
still
just
there.
Yeah,
they
when
didn't
were
buried under
mulch or anything.
Maybe
or plants.
3 inches of dirt on top of it.
It's just a patina of dirt over a witch's hand.
What the fuck? Like you're
Witch's
eating
bones.
Sabaro and there's a fucking witch's hand right there.
All right, let's get to part 3. So Bob, you gave this a 55. Soju, you gave this a 60. And Soju, you're going to take it, and you're not going to believe this. This is a 92% certified fresh.
Wow. What is happening?
Overall,
I don't know.
3 or 2 to 1, so I get the yeet.
That's a yeet, skeet, yeet.
I didn't approve of that. You're just freewheeling with my segment here.
Skeet, yeet.
Here's the critics' consensus. Fear Street Part 3, 1666, sends the slasher series back in time for a trilogy concluding installment that caps things off on a screaming high note. I think that's a little colorful for the situation we got.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't think that encapsulates the movie really.
So I think it's really all ski yeet motherfucker. Like that,
skeet,
right?
yeet. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was the song from
Cool.
y'all's time. Huh?
Y'all's times.
Y'all's time. All right, let's go.
From y'all's
Let's go back to square one and let's do us the audience scores here, boys. The audience scores are coming for part 1. It's 1,000 plus. 1,000 plus ratings for part 1, 500 plus ratings for part 2, 500 plus ratings for part 3. And this is the audience score. Keep in mind. All right, let's start with Bob this time. Bob, what do you think the audience gave part 1?
Oh man, what it was fucking high as shit. For the critics, I'm gonna think it's a little bit lower for the audience, but not much lower. Just give me an 80. I'll stop talking. 80,
and you'll stop talking. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. All right, part 2. Here we go. What are you thinking for that one?
78.
78 percentile. All right, 1666. What do you think about that one?
I'll take a 66, please.
66 percentile. Soju, how about you? We're going to start with part 1.
All right. 80's high. I don't know. I think I'm just going to shoot high on all of these because of that of those crazy critic scores. I'll take an 82.
82 percentile. All right. For part 2?
80.
80 percentile. All right, and then part 3, audience score.
Here. 75.
75. All right. Let's start off with part 1. Here we go. So Soju, you gave that an 82. Bob, you gave it an 80. The actual audience score for part 1 is 64%. So Bob, you're going to take that one.
Gambled wrong.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it would seem so. The audience score, which there's an audience says section for just this one movie. I don't know if that's a new section or what, but here's what it says. It has more enthusiasm for its throwback setting than actual inspiration, but Fear Street's first installment does just enough to make slasher fans interested in its sequels. I don't know what they keep saying slasher. I don't know how slashery any of these movies are really. It don't strike me that way. It strikes me as
the first
very
one.
slashery.
Yeah, actually, the first one,
2 for sure.
I get the most out of the 3, certainly.
The third.
If they didn't say the words like "there's a witch around here," then yeah, that's where most of the kills are coming from. Is from.
I guess that's true.
It's a series of slashers. That's what the whole thing is.
I know that's the way. I mean, that's why it seems less like I don't know. Maybe it's just not by numbers. Slasher is kind of where like none of it is by numbers.
Slash
really.
by numbers. Continue,
Yes.
Randy.
All right. Anyway, so for part 2, we have 80 coming from Juice and 78 coming from Bob. And Juice, you're going to take that one. That's an 82%. Very close on that one.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's a skeet
Like-
yeet.
That is also
Just like
no
last time.
audience says section for that or this last one.
All
All right. For our last one, 75% from Soju and 66% from Bob.
66.
Soju is going to take this one. 80%. 80% is where it was. Interestingly,
Skeet,
you said 82% for number 1, which was 64%, but then part 2 was 82%, and you guessed 80% on that, and then part 3 was 80%. I was sitting here like, there's some weird juju happening here.
Yeah.
So you were correct, but in the wrong places.
That's pretty weird, huh?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to go through negative reviews. There's not enough time.
Tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got shit to do. Thank you, Randy. Let's go ahead and jump into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right, I looked up part 1. If anybody would like to take some time and look up part 2 and then maybe part 3, let's all
I'll
just
look
take
at part
one.
3. Sure.
I'll do too.
All right, there we go. That'll work. In the opening scene, the bookstore shelves are filled with Fear Street books with the author listed as Robert Lawrence. The letters RL in R.L. Stein's name stand for Robert Lawrence. Hey, there you go. The Fear Street book the woman buys at the store from Heather is The Wrong Number. It was originally published on March 1st, 1990 by Simon Pulse. It is the 5th book in the original film or Fear Street series. The main character in the book's name is Dina. Okay, there you go. Skullface's costume was inspired by R.L. Stein's Halloween Night 2 from the Point Horror book series. So they're just blending all these R.L. Steins and everything together. Despite the film's title Fear Street, the movie is focused on murders that happen in Shadyside as a whole. The actual street and the title has not yet been shown or even mentioned. I didn't even think about that.
Wait, what was that? I'm sorry.
Despite the film's title Fear Street, the movie is focused on murders that happen in Shadyside as a whole. The actual street and the title has not yet been shown or even mentioned.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about this. This was some pandering bullshit. As Josh walks past Kate in the hallway, he recites one of the variations of the popular Konami
code.
Thank you,
Konami code.
Up, up, down, down, left, right, be a start. Good Lord.
I think they by the third one, I kind of was into that. The first one, it felt pandery. The second time, I was like, it's fine. He created a moment.
Us Zoomers, we don't even know what that is.
What is a Konami?
Yeah. What is Konami codes?
What is a Mega Man?
Mang. What's a Mega Mang?
That's not a Konami, but
One more. The town of Shadyside, Ohio, really exists. It is considered a part of the Wheeling WV. What is that? What state is that? What is WV?
West Virginia.
Oh, thank you. Statistical area. I was like, what? Yeah. However, there's no European settlers in the area until 1879. Ohio was itself not settled by Europeans until after the American Revolution, and there were never any witch hangings in the state. Boom.
That we know of.
Yeah, I guess. All right. Who's got part 2?
I got it. Here we go. Although this is the second film in the Fear Street trilogy, it was actually filmed last after part 1 and 3. Camp Nightwing is a reference to the setting of the Fear Street book Lights Out, although the plots are different. Camp Rutledge...
That felt like a reference to an R.L. Stein thing.
That's because it is.
Yeah.
Camp Rutledge stands in for Camp Nightwing and was the major filming location used for Little Darlings in 1980. Both Fear Street 1978 and Little Darlings have a scene which was filmed at Camp Daniel Morgan, where Friday the 13th, Part 5, Jason Lives, was filmed.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
In the Fear Street books, Sarah Fier, there were 2 witches that were actually burned instead of hanged, like they were hanged in these movies. Like Alice, Tommy is the name for a survivor character from the Friday the 13th series. The film also copies many locations from this series. C. Berman's dog is named Major Tom, an obvious reference to the song Space Oddity by David Bowie.
Can't piss off the Bowie heads.
Yeah, first time his name is referenced, it's on a label while the Nirvana cover of Bowie's 1970 song, The Man Who Sold the World, is playing. The character name Ziggy Berman is a reference to Ziggy Stardust, which was David Bowie's stage persona, 1972-1973. Gillian Jacobs and Ryan Simpkins previously appeared together in Gardens of the Night 2008. There's the Hitachi cassette player is on here, and that's it. I'm not going to read anymore. Randy, take it.
Hitachi. Okay, great. So yeah, this is the part 3 is the middle filmed, and that makes sense because they had more actors from the first one, and well, you know, it blended it blended casts more. This is the only film in the trilogy to actually reference the titular Fier Street, which is named after Sarah Fier, not spelled Fier as in the title of the series. Yeah. Good was also the surname of a prevalent family during the Salem witch trials.
Oh, okay.
This is definitely the nerdiest trivia, unrelated nerddom crossover I've seen. Blink and you miss it at 11:53 minutes while Sarah is turning the pages of the book. A glimpse of the Sephiroth is shown. Sephiroth is part of the Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. And at 12:02, there's a drawing of a figure resembling Baphomet. Both of those are very Final Fantasy oriented things in pop culture. And I feel like that's the reason that they're listed here and not so much because they give so much of a shit about Kabbalah. But I could be wrong. Could be very wrong. Let's see. I have not read this yet, but this is a spoiler one. After killing Nick, Dina removes her coat to show Sam her body armor made of books. The books are various actual Fear Street titles, including the first evil, Fear Street Cheerleaders #1. So those were Fear Street books. They just covered up the Fear Street portion of it, like the thing that says Fear Street.
Did he actually try to stab her and fail because she was wearing books, or did she just reveal that she was wearing books? Okay.
She was protected by knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, he fought her off and got her knife and stabbed her, and I thought that was a nice nod personally. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a ton on this one. There's only a couple more, and they're basically retreads of the other ones you guys said.
Sweet deal. Let's go ahead and jump into Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the Week.
Soju, what's that?
Cooter is a character type and a straight, chillin', exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. We want the cooter with the most points. 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. There is a shit ton of characters throughout these 3 films. Does anybody have an idea for who could be the top cooter, though?
I guess it'd be like the whole good lineage.
Yeah, so we could start with like Solomon, maybe, since he was the first one.
Yeah, and really just everybody who continued that.
Yeah, they all do the same thing.
The squad, the good squad.
Yeah, so let's should we do it collective or just Solomon?
Well, I mean, we could start with Solomon, but if we want to bring in anything,
the only ones we really know are Solomon and Nick, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they're obviously manipulative.
Yeah.
Very deeply.
And I guess Nick maybe falls in that one more because he actually knows what's going on. Maybe, I guess. But yeah, they both are manipulative. Obviously, Solomon at the end, he's willing to... manipulate the town to say like, I got the witch and, sacrifice her up. Which like, I
think smug arrogance qualifies for him. And the idea that, he feels owed prominence and that like, I'm collecting what I'm owed by doing this. Yeah, what's one life a year or whatever to satisfy
others. Yeah.
Yeah. So, to me, that smacks of arrogance to think like, oh, you're owed this, but these other people that you killed, they don't They don't rank as people even.
That was
So
the thing.
fuck
He
you.
didn't even have to make the sacrifice. And that was a little like weird. I've never heard of a deal with the devil where you yourself give nothing up. Yeah, I'll give up this
Well,
town.
Death Note, I guess.
Yeah.
Just off the top.
So that was a little weak for me. I didn't talk about
Sexual
but, yeah.
deviancy. I don't think there's much evidence of that for him.
I don't think
specifically.
either of them show
don't
any
think
kind
so.
of weird
Yeah.
sexual deviance.
The only sexuality we see is from Nick, and it's just because he's in love with a Shadysider,
Yeah.
and that, to his detriment at the end of the day.
Shady Brooker.
Shady
sure.
I'm just
Villian.
kidding. You got it right.
I'll never remember it correctly because there's
got it
also
right.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, for all I know, I got it wrong. Anyway,
You really did get it
look
right.
at attire. They both are very dressed of their respective eras. So I don't think that either one of them
They're
They're
sort of pathetic. I think they rank.
I
on
think
the
pathetic for
scale.
sure.
Yeah, sacrificing innocence for their own benefit. It's pathetic.
Yeah. Like because you're owed it. Like again, it's that arrogance and patheticness
And
intertwined.
two, you have the devil on your side and like a army of dead people to go after, and you still fail. Like, goddamn.
Yeah,
your killers can't be killed.
Yeah.
How many times has this cop car stolen? At least once. I think maybe once in the first one as well. Anyway, yeah, you're a bad cop, bad person. Fuck you. Yeah, I think they rank. I want to argue that maybe the entirety of Sunnyvale, because every character just about that we see that's from that area originally is just a ruthless sack of shit to everyone else.
Yeah, and that definitely ties
to
into, like, the smug
obscene
arrogance
degree. Yes.
as well, yeah.
The arrogance, and then they're very violent towards those people, and they're very manipulative in every sense towards like protecting themselves.
Yeah,
engineering the affluent engineering situations to keep people worrying about each other and down in the gutters instead of worrying about them or otherwise, things like that. Look at attire. I mean, again, it's kind of a broad spectrum, so I don't know how I can qualify that. What do you think? Sexual deviancy? I mean, yeah, to some extent, but not really any more or less than anyone else, really. Like, it's really just more like they're sexually active teens. I don't even think it's deviancy so much.
Yeah, I didn't think there was really a whole lot of that in this film. Was there?
Yeah,
not
there was some,
except for that one dude, but he had nothing to do with the goods. The one dude who was like getting all kind of handsy with that girl.
Oh,
that
yeah.
pitched a tent.
I think, wasn't he a good? I thought he was like a younger. Oh no, he was somebody
I don't
else.
think
Never
so,
mind.
yeah.
There was another good in that situation, but it wasn't him.
So
Pathetic though.
yeah, pathetic.
Yeah.
I think the goods got it. I
think the goods are probably the stronger case.
We got him.
We just don't. Yeah, it's too broad, I think, to do.
The
with
only
the
other
whole
one
scene.
I would suggest is that guy who pitches the tent, because obviously he's a sexual
Yeah.
deviant. He's manipulative because he lies and says like shit about the girls just because he was humiliated. He's pathetic.
all the Salem witch trial people certainly that like falsified court accounts to
We
implicate
didn't
these
talk.
women.
That was my favorite part, though, of that third movie when everybody's eyes were ripped out. That was the one like highlight for me.
That was
of
fucked
I was
up,
like,
man.
That's fun. That scene, that was cool.
By
That's
the
cool
preacher.
shit.
Yeah. And it's also like the preacher that they earlier had a little rhyme about him being blind or something. Like,
And all their puddles
cutesy
of like
rhyme.
their eyes and goo ripped out. I was like, that's fucked.
They ripped out my goo.
That was like the one highlight of that film. I was like, oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was tight. That 30 seconds was tight. Yeah.
That's a very brutal moment. Yeah, I think let's go with the goods just
Yeah.
to close this chapter out. But
We got them.
I think there's plenty of cootery to go around.
We got all the goods. Gentlemen.
Good nubs.
Oh yeah, we got that too.
Rob's got all the good nubs.
We're gonna skip what we've been watching
Don't know
this
what
week.
you're talking about.
We got a pile of voicemails we're gonna get to, so let's go ahead and get into our hotline screams.
Hotline scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got a bunch of voicemails this week. First up, we're going to hear from Logan. Let's hear what she has to say.
What up, crew? It's Logan. I'm calling in from Denton, Texas today. I'm hoping to get in on the Birdemic episode because we have a friend who he really does not enjoy watching movies, which is funny because, like, Diego and I always, like, that's our thing. We always watch movies. All of our friends do, except for this one friend. He hates when we make him watch movies. But he heavily fucks with movies like The Room and Birdemic. Is, like, one of his favorites to, like, throw on. And every time he does, I almost have to fist fight him to turn it off because that movie's dog shit. But I am glad that it makes some people happy. I know y'all aren't like a radio show or whatever, but this episode is probably going to come out on or right before Diego's birthday. So I did want to say happy birthday to him on the cast for that. He will be getting one ass slap for each year. So all in y'all's name. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I can't wait to hear what y'all think of Birdemic. I can't believe y'all actually had to watch it finish.
Yeah. Sorry, Logan. We had to hold that one for a week.
Yeah, a little bit
late
late.
on the birthday.
Happy belated birthday. Hope you keep his ass beat red.
Yeah.
Much like DJ
Give him
Elzebub.
some more slap.
Slap.
Yeah,
Slap
give him a few more on it.
Slap me in the
Yeah,
ass.
give him a couple extra from old
Slap him in the
Bob.
ass, please.
Yeah, give
That's
him
the
that.
only way to do it in our spirit. So we did listen to Birdemic, or did watch Birdemic, and did review it last week. And you can, by now, I've certainly listened to that episode. I feel like
It's a
Yeah.
5-star movie. It's incredible.
it's a great experience. It is a terrific fucking experience.
I purchased the
in my
sequel,
opinion.
and I cannot wait to watch it.
Your friend is a fucking weirdo for not liking any other movie but those movies, but they're likable films if you're in the right mindset.
I completely agree. Thanks for calling, Logan. Thanks for just handing out them ass slaps like it's your fucking job. Appreciate it. Next up, we're going to hear from Matt. Let's hear what Matt has to say.
Hey, gentlemen. After your Jaws episode, you asked about people's scars and the stories behind them. So I'm going to call in and tell you this little story. Can't believe I'm actually going to tell you all this. But anyway, I was home from the Navy in 2002. One of my high school friends had become a drug dealer on campus there in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the college. And I came to crash at his apartment for like a 4-day weekend or something. He was throwing a party. This was like the opposite of a sausage party. I don't know what you call that. Like a Arby's party, I guess. I don't know.
Taco party?
As the party went on, I continued to get probably the drunkest I had ever been at that time. Someone confiscated my shirt, and as the night progressed, some third party convinced me that this roll of paper towels in the kitchen was talking shit about me.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't really make sense now that I say it out loud, but that's what happened. And I proceeded to get in a knife fight with this roll of paper towels. To my credit, I was winning up until the very end, where I put the paper towels in a headlock and began to stab it, and missed and stabbed myself in the belly. It was with a steak knife, so it wasn't that bad, even though it's like designed to cut meat. But I got blood everywhere. Luckily, I had paper towels handy, and all these ladies like got very distraught very quickly, even though I'm pretty sure it's their fault. I wouldn't let anyone take me to bed because I didn't want to get blood on my friend's bed, so I just slept there in the kitchen on the tile floor, and then I woke up before everybody else and left, and I don't think I've talked to any of them ever again but my one friend. Anyway, that's my story. Got a nice little scar just under my ribs. And don't drink, people. All right, bye.
Man, that was a roller coaster of a call.
I love that. Them Navy boys, man, they don't fuck around.
I don't know what I'm going to do with the new nomenclature of Arby's party, but I don't know if I can. It took me a few minutes to get over that.
Does that come with extra horsey sauce?
Oh, it's the horsiest sauce. Oh, shit.
Why wouldn't it just be the taco party?
The taco party. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know, man. Either way, it's it's a real thing. But Arby's party.
I love his sly little comment, like, I was bleeding everywhere, but luckily I had paper towels nearby.
Yeah, this is a man who has workshopped this story a little bit, trying to be like, I can't believe I'm telling this story. Yeah. No, you've gotten some mileage out of this story. I can tell.
He also,
and if you haven't, you really should, because it's a good fucking story.
It is a good story. He also mentions that he wouldn't let anybody take him to bed, and I assume he means sexually.
That's what I thought, too.
Sorry, ladies.
I mean,
I'm not here to lay the pipe because I'm bleeding profusely.
I don't want to get blood in your Arby's.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Justin's falling out of his fucking chair.
We need stains over here.
Talk about your horsey sauce.
Horsey stain. Thanks for sharing, Matt. Glad you didn't kill yourself. That sucks.
Yeah, that's an embarrassing way to die, but a great story to tell if you survive. So.
Yeah. Great story, man. Thanks for sharing. Next up, we're going to hear from Jim. Let's hear what Jim has to say.
Yo, what's up, crew, children, G-Baby, calling in to say hello. I'll make this a quick hitter. First of all, grits. Whoever the fuck's eating grits with sugar, that's a sacrilege. Grits is a savory food, and it's dope. It's not just average or okay. It is a good, side piece, but I also feel like it's a good binder. Like, when you get a skillet going, you throw some eggs in with the grits, sausage, bacon, whatever you like, hash browns, you break the yolk, get all that mixed up, a little salt and pep, hot sauce. You're on the gravy train with biscuit wheels. I love grits, so that definitely, I needed to address that. Second, I saw people on the Slack talking about, do you wait till you've seen the movie that they're reviewing that week and then listen to the episode, or do you listen to them all as they come up, whether or not you've seen them before? Me, personally, I like to just raw dog it. Give me that stuff right in the veins, even if I haven't seen it or not. Because if it ain't raw dog, nah dog. Cooter statement, maybe. Doesn't make it any less true. Point being, Birdemic. Holy Jesus Christ. When I heard that was going to be the next film, I was like, I'm not fucking watching that. I don't give a baker's fuck about Birdemic. But shout out to Michael. It sounds like it's a real winner. And now because of the cast, I will be watching it. So that's an added benefit for me, at least, of listening to the cast before and maybe hey, yeah, maybe I will check that movie out. Maybe it doesn't suck complete ass. So anyway, keep on keeping on and take care out there, everyone. Chillin' crew. Let's hear from 2 p.m. Todd. Where you at, brother? All right. Keep chilling.
I thought we were
children.
Done. That movie does suck complete ass, just to be very clear.
Okay, no, he did cut. It had
right,
15 seconds there.
Direct in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie does suck. Sorry if we steered you wrong, G-Baby. I really, really do hope that you watch it still. It's worth watching.
Yeah.
Birdemic is a must-see film. I'm saying it.
Whoa,
That's an
bold
experience.
Dude, I've been telling everybody in my life about that movie. No
Jesus
joke.
Christ.
You have
Everybody.
to justify buying that second film,
Dude,
Bob.
I can't wait to watch it.
You're becoming a Birdemic guy. I hope you're happy
That's me.
with that life. That's the lifestyle you've chosen for yourself.
Dude, I'll wear that. That's fine. Put it on a fucking name badge. Bob the Birdemic.
Jim, I want to say, like, Jim, you know, if veins are involved in your raw dog, and I think I've been doing raw dogging wrong. I have no idea what you're talking. Put in my veins.
Justin
I'm raw
is
dogging.
gonna pass out.
This is all very troubling. So
blood and veins and
fuck a vein. Why not? Go for it. I mean, shit.
I'd fuck a space vampire.
Yeah, we know you would. I like the skillet idea. You get all the breakfast foods, and you let them let the flavors get to know each other.
Dude, I had grits this morning with some cheese in it, not fucking sugar.
I'm sorry,
That's
folks.
bullshit.
More grits for everyone else. That shit it's just the texture of drywall. It's like eating popcorn off your
Who's
fucking
making your grits? Good lord.
It's terrible. Like,
Dude.
it's just it's just like wet with little pebbles of shit in it. It's just not good.
Wet
It's not
shit
good.
pebbles.
It's just
my
it's like
Randy.
just pour some like water in some pebbly mud.
Do you
Eat
eat
that
oatmeal?
No, bad texture.
Okay.
Dude.
I'm one of those people who people always say like, "Oh, the texture of food." Like, I can't.
I can't believe you don't like gruel.
Well, no, there's not any kind of particular texture of any kind of food that has troubled me. So that's
Do you
not
like
something I struggle with
oysters?
it. I would never seek oysters out, but I could eat them.
I'll bet you wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Not for me, but
No,
yeah,
I mean, I don't like them either. But
I could get that. I could understand that one.
I fuck
like
with
texture
some
bothers me,
grits.
man. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's really not good to me. You know, and more for everybody else. Not to take it
Do you
away
like
from anyone.
shrimp, Randy?
I like shrimp. Okay, yeah.
That's got a weird texture.
Do you like it on the?
It can have a weird texture. I prefer it. At least it's kind of like somewhat. It's got the texture kind of like a hot dog, where it's like got a little snap to it if it's cooked well.
Yeah. My hot dogs
So-
don't snap though.
Oh, you're doing it wrong.
I guess.
Wow.
They don't. They're not snap like a fucking cracker, but they have a little. They have a little.
Yeah.
They pop a seal.
Thanks for calling, G baby. It's always good to hear from you. Next up, we got Kelvin in our ear holes. Let's hear what Kelvin has to say.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Kelvin, calling once again. Calling about my drunken story. A few years ago, I was that they held at a local bar that was like a Iron Maiden cover band called Wrathchild. Good band. And I was about 4 Long Island iced teas deep, and I'm a lightweight. And I went outside, and I started dancing like a stripper on one of the light poles that was outside. And eventually, I barfed anything that I ate that night, including all the liquids. And it was during the winter, so a day or two later, when I went to visit the bar again, there was my throw up, frozen solid on the ground. I didn't piss myself or anything, but it was pretty gnarly for me, in my opinion. Pretty cool though. Anyways, our episode up. Thank you guys for all you guys do. Great cast. Love the show. Yibbity dabbity. Hail yeet and hail ski. Keep chilling, guys.
Dude,
I like this Kelvin fellow. He pays the proper tributes.
I've been in a very, very similar position, Kelvin. Those Long Islands will tear you up. Whoa.
Dude, 4 of them is not a joke for really anybody who's not drinking pretty heavily most nights.
I love that he tells the story and then he's like, but I mean, I didn't like piss myself or anything. That makes
so much better.
That's the bar. He just wants to make sure we know he's not sinking that down.
Any Waffle House, Kelvin. So what does that say about you?
Well, he might have. It's just now frozen to the ground. So,
yeah, we don't have that problem in Florida. Our puke doesn't freeze, so you can just willfully hose it down.
This puke don't run.
Yeah. Well, apparently not wherever Kelvin lives. Thanks for sharing, buddy. Next time, just limit yourself to 2 Long Island iced teas. You went too long in the tea, my boy.
Yeah. Just have a couple Long Islands, a few Four Locos, some Mad Dog 2020. You'll be fine.
16 Locos. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
It's going to be great. Ooh. I've done the 16 Loco, my friend.
Oh, my Lord.
Recommend.
I was there.
Heavy recommend.
No, don't. Your heart will explode. You will die. Yeah, Randy is a monster.
I can't believe Randy's alive.
Science is holding me together with duct tape and raisins.
I saw death in his eyes that night.
It was a fucked up night.
I've never been the same.
You're talking about scars. Let's talk about Randy's scars.
Mental scars. Yeah, that's true.
Last but not least, we're going to hear from Todd. Old 2 p.m. Todd calling.
Hell yes.
See what he has to say.
Nice.
How do? Chillin' crew. Much like Batman lingering in the dark shadows of southern Florida, I saw within the sky a 2 p.m. Todd signal calling for a return. So, Jew, hey, yeet, this for you. Hope everyone is doing well. 2 things. Number 1, Birdemic had me rolling. Spectacular cast. You should expect no less that Michael would serve up such a little gem for us all to enjoy as a family. Number 2, Waffle House stories. Back in the day when I was just a young lad, we had been out drinking. There were 5 of us. We somehow stumbled into the Waffle House the wee hours of the morning, and one of the 5 said, "Everybody, order all the food you want. I've got it. I've got it." So we all ordered steak and eggs and bacon and sausage and this and that. We all had a hearty meal, laughing at the drunken night that we had had. Upon the check being delivered, said person that was supposed to pay informed us he had no money. Panic set in. How will we dine and dash out of a Waffle House? Well, needless to say, one by one, we filter our way through the bathroom and seemingly slipped out. Luckily, there was a lot of people in the Waffle House. I unfortunately left my sweet leather jacket at the time behind and had to go back. They were cleaning off the table. Apparently, they had not noticed that we had not paid for said meal. So the girl that was cleaning off the table, I handed her a $20 bill and said, "You did a spectacular job. Thank you so much for all you do." And off into the night I went. Thank you all for listening to my little tale today. Chillin' crew, thank you for all you do. Keep chillin'. Yeah, yeet.
Man, that is both the least and most classy dine and dash story I have ever heard, ever. You dine and dash a Waffle House, so least, instantly. And also most classy because you still directly tipped and complimented your server. So the only victim is Waffle House, the entity, which, they'll absorb it. They'll absorb it.
Why did your friend say order all you want? I got it.
Dude, I love your friend.
Money.
Your friend's a little bit of a dick, but
that's something like
points
Jack
for style.
would do, though.
That's what you're dropping names. You're calling. I don't think he would.
Jack might take exception to that.
I don't
He
think
might take exception to that.
I don't think he would.
Really? I not in.
I would not believe him because I once asked him for some money to get parking in St. Augustine. He said, "No, I don't have any money," and then paid with cash at the bar.
No, I just not as like a skeezy thing as like I could see him laughing at that, like he would think
laughing
it's
at
a
that,
joke.
sure,
Yeah,
yes.
not in like a low down way, in a practical joke.
And I don't know if there's no classy way to do that.
In
but,
a Joker kind of way.
In a
if you joke around about it and then
way.
like make a joke about it, sure.
Yeah,
I've never had.
Sorry, I didn't mean to slight anybody's name.
I've never had a steak at the Waffle House, but like, is it good? Is it okay?
I mean, it's Waffle House steak. I mean, it is what it is. I think.
I mean, I guess if you're like,
you're lucky if you get beef.
4 Long Island iced teas deep, it's probably the best fucking steak you ever had. But I don't know. I'm curious. Maybe I should go get one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you get it smothered and covered?
A steak at Waffle House either. Huh.
I'd like a steak and please cover it in maple syrup.
Dude, I'd do that shit.
I would not.
That sounds awful.
I love anytime I go to a diner, I love to order a breakfast that's full of savory foods and put some maple syrup on it.
Yes,
not in my grits though. Not in my fucking grits. Hash browns for sure. Bacon,
Dude.
sausage for sure. Grits, hell no.
You're gonna go with the steak and maple. That's what you're gonna.
I mean,
that sounds terrible.
Man, I'm gonna bury you in a fucking box made of filled with maple.
That's not a crazy thing.
But that's not. That is barbecue sauce. There's more than syrup in there.
But it's still got a sweetness to the meat.
It's so thick.
You try it out and let us know what you think. But I'm not giving it a shot myself.
Can I get your maple pecan steak,
I'd like to,
please, Waffle House?
My plan for tonight is not to move anymore. Give me a steak with maple, please.
Got the itis.
Yeah.
But I swear, if a drop of that maple syrup touches my fucking grits, I'm gonna light this building on fire.
It's okay. They put the grits in a separate bowl. It's fine.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
People have very strong feelings about grits, but apparently there's no limits on steak. I want some ketchup, some maple, and some barbecue.
Ketchup? Good Lord, I'm not an animal.
I'll put ketchup on it before I put maple syrup
I'm sorry.
on it.
I would not put either of those things on because I'm not a fucking monster.
I agree with you.
We're also talking about a steak from Waffle House. I'm not talking about going to fucking...
I'm not getting a steak at Waffle House for starters.
It's cooked.
I mean, come on.
It's cooked through and through. Yeah, it's not. It's like it's like rubber by the time you get it.
I'm talking about a classy steak here.
It's not classy, but it is classic. Maybe I don't know.
I think you could make that work if you're a good chef. I don't think that the sweaty man at the fucking fry station at Waffle House is going to do it for me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Correct.
Still sweaty. I'm
Still
sure.
sweaty. Very sweaty. It's a hard job. Stand there all night long.
It's a short
I'm
order,
sure.
but it's a long night. I am sure.
Wow, look at the playing on words and shit.
Thanks for calling, Todd. It's good to hear from you. Wild story. I hope you never ever forgave your friend.
I really hope that Todd, you can provide us with a description, or somebody can provide us with a mock-up of the 2 p.m. Todd signal. I want to know what this beast looks like. Please bring it to the Slack channel. Let us gaze upon the visage of 2 p.m. Todd in silhouette form.
Also, yeah, thanks for responding to the call, my guy. Good to hear your voice again.
He was right on cue. Appreciate it. Again, if you're listening, want to call and leave us a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're going to be talking about The Green Knight. Finally getting released. It's theatrical only, I believe. The new hotness from A24, The Green Knight. Slam your eyeballs into it. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Hit us up on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, let us know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the fun. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.